KD made it.
What is up, guys? Charles Hicks here, coming at you live from my top bunk. First and foremost, thank you to Tracksta for having me on today, and I'm just here to answer some questions. And I'm 18 years old. I'm a distance runner for Stanford University in California. I run like anything from 8K, 10K in cross, from like 3K to 10K in track. So anything in the distance I'm happy with. I've run 808 for 3K, I've run 2407 for 8K, my 5K PR is 1453, but that's way back from high school, so hopefully we can get that down. Obviously we didn't have the outdoor season that we wanted to have, but I'm staying optimistic, and I'm hoping that we can get some better times next year. A little bit about myself, some side information is that I was born in London, and then my family and I moved to the United States when I was 12 years old. So I was born and raised in England, and because of that, when I raced internationally, or the one time I've raced internationally, I ran for Great Britain. And so that leads into question number 2, which is, how did you get into running? And I got into running because of a mandatory race that was at my school in London, and there I raced pretty well. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it was something to really just get me started and get me excited about the sport. And so when we moved to America, I finally had the opportunity to pursue cross country and outdoor track with my high school. And so that's where things really took off, where I started being able to train every day, and just sort of started beginning to shape my life around running, and that's when things started to really take off for me. To talk about my Uros experience, that was just a whole insane affair. I mean, I didn't even know it was gonna happen right up until I was, a couple weeks out from flying all the way there, and they just said, as long as you have your passport and your citizenship, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to compete in the trials. And so I took a risk and I flew all the way to Liverpool, not knowing how the competition would stack up against me, not knowing my chances of making the team, but just knowing that I had a purpose, I had a goal, and I was making a pretty big sacrifice to get to it. So I put the trust in myself that on race day I would get it done, and luckily enough, you have to place in the top 5 to get a spot at the international championship, and luckily enough I came second at the trials, and I was able to compete for Great Britain. And then beyond that, at the championship, it was just insane to be there around athletes of such a high caliber from countries all across Europe, and I placed 5th, which was huge for me. I mean, I was just happy to have made it there, and then to have placed 5th against such incredible competition with another possible year as I could compete next year was insane. I mean, it was really the thing that gave me a lot of confidence as an athlete, and sort of inspired me to start looking at races more as someone who belongs, rather than someone who's just, happy to get there and just, happy with any result as long as he gets to the start line. So I've started to focus a lot more on gunning for the win, and hopefully it's going to translate into some great things down the road. Alright, there's 2 sides to running that I enjoy the most. One of them is just the pure bliss of exploring a new place or revisiting a familiar trail. When you're just going on an easy run, you're just taking in all the scenery, and it's like time I get to spend in the outdoors that I wouldn't otherwise, but I also simultaneously get a feeling of self-improvement and progression while I get to enjoy beautiful vistas in Colorado, or even down in Florida running trails here. I just get to spend a lot of time out in the open air while doing something that I really enjoy. And secondly is the competitive aspect. I've always been someone who likes to have a goal and then just to do whatever I can to ensure that I achieve that. And I think running's a great sport because a great sport that represents that, because you really get out what you put in. So I love the feeling of sort of fairness to it, where whenever you get to the start line, the work that you put in is usually going to be what you get out of the race. And you know, you beat the guy next to you because you worked harder. Favorite workout, my favorite workout by far is tempos. I've always thought of myself more as like a grinder, so the like more like pace consistent, longer, like 8 mile tempos are one of my favorite things, because it's just an absolute grind fest, and something that I think afterwards I feel like I've made, you know, a ton of progress and gotten a lot fitter. Biggest athlete inspiration. This one's a bit out of left field, but ever since a couple of years ago, or maybe it was even, I think it was last year, in the middle of outdoor track season, my buddy introduced me to the documentary Free Solo, where I sort of was introduced to the climber Alex Honnold for the first time, and his mentality and his approach towards his sport, which is essentially climbing up mountains with no ropes, and sort of the way that I saw him cope with his fear and the incredible risks he was taking and the stakes he was dealing with every day. It sort of allowed me to recontextualize races and help me relax, because if he can be that calm climbing up a mountain with no ropes, then I should have no reason to be stressed before, you know, like a 3,000 or a 5K. So I take inspiration from him and his fearlessness and his dedication to his craft, and I think that he is my idol as an athlete. It's also nice that he's a climber and I'm a runner, so I don't feel like I have to like live up to anything that he's done. I get to sort of chart my own path while still, you know, being inspired by him. A couple of fun questions here. My favorite film, that's a tough one. I love making videos, so obviously I care a lot about movies. I think one of my favorite movies, and it still stands, well, I think I got two. I got Free Solo for the inspiration it provides for racing, as I discussed when I was talking about Alex Honnold. And Saving Private Ryan is my favorite like movie. It's one of the only movies I've ever cried while watching. And it just holds a really special place in my heart. Favorite artists, musicians. So I really like alternative music. I think the band's Hippocampus, Young the Giant, Two Door Cinema Club are probably my favorites. Maybe Modest Mouse as well. But it's hard because I kind of listen to just a ton of different music. I don't really have allegiances to like singular artists. And that's not really a personal choice. It's more the way I discover my music. It's just I go through the Spotify recommended every week. So it's just I got stuff from all over. Best food? My mom's pasta carbonara. It's like spaghetti and cheese and ham. It's insane. If you can find like a recipe somewhere like after a run when you're super hungry. I know I already said the Chipotle thing, but oh my god, like when I'm back home, it's the best. All right, which vest is the nicest? So I really like the US vests. I think GBs are nicer, especially the Nike ones, but the Olympic ones are a little more complicated. I actually don't know what the British Olympic one is, or one would have been for this year. I never saw it get released, but what I did see was the US Olympic singlet, and I thought that it was awful. I really didn't like the orange. It didn't look like red, white, and blue in my opinion. So regardless of whatever the British vest would have looked like, I'm gonna have to stay loyal and go GB both ways. So 2020 went as well as it possibly could have, in my opinion, for me. I was able to make an international team and place 5th at the European U20 Championships for Great Britain in cross-country season. And in track, I was able to cut down, well, basically based on my high school time, I was able to cut down my 3K/3200 time by about 10 seconds before my high school season would have even started. So I was making huge strides. And obviously we didn't get the outdoor season that we wanted, but there's no need to dwell on that. We're looking forward to the future. And I think I'm just aiming now in 2020 to take the momentum that I had from the previous seasons and make sure that I don't lose that in 2021. In 2021, I'd really like to make the national team and go to nationals for cross country. If I do that, I would love as well to go to I would love to have the opportunity to return and try and win the U20 European Championships for cross country. But obviously I have to prioritize Stanford because my teammates are there and my coach is there, and I have the obligation for the team. So my goal to make it to nationals comes first and foremost. In outdoor track, I'd really like to break 14 in the 5K. I felt like I was ready to do it when the season got canceled, so that was kind of a bummer. But I still want to do that. I'd love to break 8 in the 3K, and maybe potentially make it to nationals in either indoor or outdoor. Hey, we're in the additional questions section. It's time to talk about my YouTube channel, apparently. This has been a personal project for me. When I came to Stanford, it finally felt like I would have the time and the agency to start a YouTube channel and start documenting my training process and sort of the process of the team, and it would just be a really good way to cover my progress over these next 4 years, and hopefully be something fun to look back on. And then on top of that, I had this sort of feeling going into college that I didn't really understand the inner workings of college athletics. I felt like I always knew who won the national championships and who won the individual races, but I didn't really know their story, and I felt like I didn't really have stakes because of that. I feel like most sports prosper when the athletes, when you understand the athlete's personality. And most sports, like team sports like soccer or football, you root for a team no matter who's on it. But with like track or cross country, where it's sort of like an individual sport that's incorporated into a team sport, I feel like understanding the people makes watching the races more interesting. So what I'm hoping happens is that through my career, by sharing sort of my personality and interacting with people and hopefully creating that connection, it'll make more people interested in watching the races, and it'll sort of inspire other athletes to do the same thing. And I'm hoping down a couple years down the road, people will tune in, and everyone's gonna have people will tune in to like the big races, and everyone's gonna have their own allegiances, and it'll become something that people really want to watch. So I think there's multiple reasons to make the YouTube channel. Also, it's just fun for me. I love editing videos and I love making videos, and everyone's been so supportive. So yeah, I mean, if it sounds interesting to you, feel free to subscribe. It's just called Charles Hicks, so it should be pretty easy to find. But it's growing faster than I thought it would, and yeah, I'm just having fun with it. Any amount of subscribers is already a win for me. It's already exceeded my expectations, so I mean, it's really been unreal, and the support has been so kind. So if you're someone who likes running content, or cares about college running, cares about international running, wants to see shoe reviews, or just generally understand what it's like to be on a college team, or wants to follow my progress over these next couple years, feel free to subscribe, or just watch some videos, or do nothing at all. It's up to you. And next question is go-to post-race food. Now, I'm not the most exciting eater. I usually just like to eat plain stuff like pasta and cheese, maybe chicken or turkey. So I don't know. I feel like after a post-race I'll eat anything, but I guess the most exciting thing I would eat is I really love Mexican food when I've burned a lot of calories and I need to get them in really fast. So one thing I've eaten after races recently is I'll get a steak burrito from Chipotle with extra meat, and then I'll also get 3 steak tacos as well from Chipotle, and just absolutely devour it. Training racing shoes. Okay, so for training, I love shoes with cushions. So the Hoka Arahi 3, now the Arahi 4, have always been a safe option for me, but recently I tried the Nike Epic React Infinity Run. I made a whole video about that. I still can't say the name, but those have actually been my favorite shoes of all time so far, just for training, because they have a lot of bounce to them and a lot of cushion, and I just feel most comfortable in them. I know they don't work, I don't know how well they work for everyone else, and obviously everyone's different, everyone's feet are different, but for me, that's my favorite training shoe. for trainings and workouts, I like to do almost all my workouts in flats. I've started to do some tempo work in next percents, which has been awesome. It's been just super fun to try out those shoes, but I think flats are really good for helping you get ready for races, because they, in my experience, they really build up your calf muscles, which I find burn the most after I've worn spikes. So I think by working out in flats, you sort of prepare yourself to race in spikes. And for racing, I've only ever raced in spikes. Whether or not I'll try the next percents or the Alpha Flies next year is still up in the air, but for now, still a spike guy. Like first year at Stanford, first thought about it, it was too short. I think a lot of people at college would agree with me on that one, as we're all back home now, but it was short but sweet. I mean, the training out there was phenomenal. Training with the team was absolutely insane. All of my classes were incredible. Obviously there were some prereqs I had to take that I didn't enjoy as much, but even the classes I didn't enjoy, like the teachers were just so like next level and just very accommodating. I found like in high school there's really nice teachers who are really understanding, but you also get the other teachers who aren't as willing to sort of work with you either as an athlete or just as a person. They just don't have the flexibility that I found in college, and I feel like that's something that's really helped me enjoy my studies as well as my athletics, because they don't really come into conflict so much. Obviously there's scheduling stuff, but both sides are so flexible that it's just been an amazing experience. And yeah, I'm so glad that I chose Stanford. Thank you to Tracksta for having me on, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. I wish I could have done it in a more scenic setting, but obviously we're all staying inside, and I hope you guys stay safe. Till next time. Whew.